evening, everyone. I hope we are all doing well and we had a fruitful weekend and have managed to rest. So, thank you very much for joining tonight. I've been looking at the issue of debt since we're dealing with the subject of debt. Last week we were talking about using leverage, but tonight I want us to go broader in this issue of debt because most of the time when we do our financial literacy sessions or doing these financial planning stuffs, we focus on giving people strategies or instruments that can help them to exit debt. But one thing which I've discovered is that you cannot just suggest something for a person to say use this strategy maybe to exit debt. You have to go to the core of the problem because each and every action that a human being does, it can be traced. So if you can trace all the footprints of the decision, then it becomes easier for you to be able to suggest the right instrument in terms of that situation. So I wanted to talk in my mind I had something like let me talk about strategies in terms of dealing with that. But I said I can't go to that site up until I come to this site that we are able to do assessments and then we're able also to deal with ourselves. So tonight's sessions we're going to take it as more like an activity. So I'll request that all of us we have pens and pen or a diary. I don't know, it's a diary or a book, whatever you can write in, because I want to give you guys an assignment that you have to deal with. You can have someone that you can share with in terms of your answers and your findings, or that person can be part of this group, it's okay. Or maybe you can get people that you feel comfortable to talk about the stuffs I'm going to talk about tonight and share with them. And then let it be a dialogue thing. Like let it be something that you guys can exchange and help each other and suggest ways that can also help you to deal with what we're going to talk about tonight. So when we talk about debt, I reflect again from last week. I spoke about different perspectives that people have when it comes to money and debt. And we spoke about poor people that for them, debt is for survival. And when we spoke about the middle class is all about sustaining a certain lifestyle. We spoke about the wealthy people and said the wealthy people, for them, debt is all about leverage. They use it in most cases to maximize their net worth. So all of them they're looking at the same object, but the results are not the same because the result is all about the decision making. So the decision of a poor person differs to the decision of a middle class. Same with the middle class and the wealthy person differs because their approach to this thing of debt is way different. So there are things which I want us to check. So this subject I'm going to continue with it next week. I want us to do some checklist in terms of our relationship with money. In fact, I was also thinking about this thing. It always bothers me when it comes to my mind. I don't know if any one of us have ever thought of it. If you have thought of it, what is your plan? I would love to hear your plan, but currently I'm still thinking and waving around and saying, how do I deal with this? I was thinking about the issue of many black people that I've seen, including myself, that we are busy working so hard and building this wealth, making sure that even if we happen to pass away anytime, we have built something for our generation. And my question was on the issue of marriage that, but bro, imagine how hard am I working? Sometimes I skip important stuff just to be at work. I sacrifice some hours to work for this. And what if my daughter decide to marry a guy who's just a guy, who's just lingering, and then the guy comes into the party and they squander everything. And my question was, okay, and then what is your answer in the issue of marriage? Like, do you have something that you can suggest, or do you have something that you'll give as an advice to your child regarding marriage and how you planning to work it out? Because I know some families, like this family, the Rockefeller family. So the Rockefeller family, what they use in terms of their marriage, they don't allow their family members to be married outside their own cycle. So they always prefer to work out married within their marriages around their own cycle. So it's wealth against wealth. So if you are not from those top class families, then they don't allow you to come to the cycle. So all of them, their money rotates within their own cycle. And I was there, and I was like, okay, it's a good idea. It works for them. I've never experimented it. I've never tested it. And then now, so I don't know, guys, if you have ever thought of this, like your kids, obvious, you're working here, you're building. Have you ever thought of the issue of marriage when it comes to your kids? Do you pay attention to those things, or they will decide and whatever happen, it will happen? I don't know. Like, maybe you guys can assist me, but it's something that bothers me most of the time, that I can't afford to work so hard for just a boy to come and take whatever I work hard for and then destroys it. So I don't know, you'll share your own views regarding this subject. So now coming back to the things that I want us to work on this week. As I've said, it will be an activity. Just have your pen and paper where you're going to write these things. So there are things which I want us to check regarding our relationship with money. And what's going to help us in this activity is all about the level of our honest. So one writer suggested this. He said, if you cannot be honest with yourself, you'll never be honest with anything at all. So he said, it start from that point where you start to be honest about yourself. And he said, honest is that level where you start by being vulnerable. So you are vulnerable to yourself to say, I need to be honest about everything to me, not to anyone. I just need to be honest, because whatever level of honesty I'm going to give to myself, it will determine whether I take a serious step towards this action or not. Let's say, for an example, there is a certain area which I'm struggling, and then I have to be honest about it. But instead of being honest, I try to find the nearest object and say, I'm not bad with money. It's because of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I justify that action. And as long as I justify that action, I cannot make a decisive decision to change that kind of habit which I've possessed. So in order for me to win with this subject, I need to be honest to myself to say, this is the I have to deal with this thing. So as I've seen, maybe that a human being can make without any trace. So any action that we make, it can be traced to something. So there is something that is linked to my financial decisions. There is something that links my decisions in terms of how I behave around money. You can link that thing and trace it to say, okay, this guy, the way he behaves around money is because of this 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then if you go to that side, then you discover, okay, to deal with this is the process that this person have to have financial struggles. The only suggestion that we'll have to give is that increase your income. But you have to understand this, even if you have a lot in your table, you can still mess up your finances. So it's not about just having a lot in your table. You have to trace the causal factor of what is it that causes you to struggle financial? What is it that causes you not to be disciplined financial? What is it that causes you to miss your goals? So the first on our checklist that we need to check is, number one is we need to do what we call pause and take stock. Pause and take stock. So what do we mean about this? So when you talk about pause and take stock, we talk about this is the crucial. So pausing means stopping long enough to notice what is happening in your life and finances. So you need to pause. This thing today I was talking about business at church. I said, don't ever mistake productiveness with business. Any person can be busy without being productive. So sometimes we justify our own stuff and say, man, I'm too busy. But at the end of the day, you check and say, is only movement, no direction, and I'm not fruitful at all. So the first step you have to pause enough and ask yourself, what is it that is happening in my life and also my finances? So many people move move through life on autopilot, where it's all about earning, spending, saving, borrowing, supporting family members, paying bills, and postponing dreams. So you don't pay much attention, just a cycle that I will be paid on the 15th, and then you get paid, you pay bills, you borrow people, or you borrow from people, you pay them back, and the cycle goes like that. You don't pay much attention. You don't ask yourself, like, where am I? Where am I lacking? Struggling? Where do I need to stretch? So that cannot happen up until you pause. You pause everything, and then you sit with yourself and you have a meeting with yourself, and you look at everything and start to analyze. Sometimes it will take you more than one day to do this thing. Just sit down, you pause everything, you cut us off, and everyone, anything that can cause you to have noise around you, just cut it off, so that you will be able to make proper reflection. It's called pause and take stock. You pause and make some reflections. Like, even when you run like retail shops, there are times where they say they're doing stock taking. So after selling, they have to start to count everything. Is there anything missing? And if everything is here, how much have you made in profit, and calculate everything. So you have also to have that moment where you pause. You pause and take stock. You pause and analyze, because sometimes you end up even engaging in patterns that, if you don't pay attention to, they will misalign you to your goals. They will misalign you to the kind of a person that you want to become. So at this level, you need to examine your current lifestyle. So these are the things that you need to examine. You need to examine your current lifestyle, or you also need to examine your emotional relationship with money and financial commitments, source of stress, and hope for the future. Let me just break it down simple. What you examine when you pause and take a stock. First of all, you examine your current lifestyle. So I'm also going to pose questions that you need to ask yourself. But some of the things that you need to examine in your current lifestyle, you also have to have the courage to ask yourself that, like, asking yourself this question: is my current lifestyle an upgrade to better my life, or an upgrade so that I will appear as a successful person in the eyes of people? Because sometimes what you call upgrade is not upgrade. Sometimes what you call upgrade is the result of the pressure around us. The noise are people whom want to prove to that, bro, I have arrived. There are some people that maybe sometimes want to equalize with them. So you have to examine, and sometimes it's not about the people around us. Sometimes it's some of the childhood traumas that you have never dealt with. So when you pause and reflect and say, "Ukalali, what is it that influenced my current lifestyle? Like, the upgrade that I want in my life, is it really me who want to upgrade for betterment, or is there any certain pressure that pushes me to do that?" Like, if we're sitting like face to face, you are on the other side, I'm this other side, I'm the one who's doing the counseling, I will definitely ask this kind of questions. Because when you talk about upgrade, is the motive behind the upgrade. There is nothing wrong about the upgrade, but the motive behind the upgrade plays a major role. And no one knows my motive. It's only me who knows my motive, what motivates me. I remember one counselor asked this question. He said, what motivates you to pursue all these things that are pursuing in your life? And then I was pausing and listening. And he said this profound, that's it made me to think for weeks. Sometimes even things that when you call yourself dreams and higher goals are not just dreams and higher goals. Some of these things are the result of the things that you have never dealt with. And then you pose the question again and say, what motivates you to pursue these things? And in that time, there was no need for me to bring some jargons and other stuffs. I had to be honest with myself and say, what is it that pursue me to pursue these stuffs? So you need to pause and analyze your current lifestyle. And the other side of analyzing your current lifestyle is the question of sustainability, because any upgrade that you made requires sustainability. So the question is, what is your plan to sustain the current lifestyle which you have introduced yourself to? Because you are living, all of us who are living in a certain level, our lifestyle differs. So in terms of your upgrade, what is your plan? Like, okay, this session, guys, is not like more of I'm teaching you. It's more like a therapy. You must take it as more like a therapy, not just as a lesson like other days where I just bring some lessons and it's a hot lessons. That we take this one as a means of therapy. So if not if, as you have introduced yourself to the kind of lifestyle that you have introduced yourself to, what is your plan in terms of sustainability? How are you planning to sustain that lifestyle? For an example, if you introduce yourself to a high lifestyle, while your only source of dependence is the salary which you're earning, then you're setting up yourself for a huge blow, because the salary is not a fixed thing. As far as you go, there will be days where you go to retirement. As far as you go, there are some changes even in the economical space. Um, I was reading something regarding the buying power of 100 rand, and then they were reflected 2000. The buying power of 100 rand, it was worth stuffs of 385, 385. So now from 2000 up until now, look at the gap. There's a huge gap. The value each in which the 100 rand had has went down. So back in 2000, it could afford stuffs which worth 385 today in 2026. So the value has went down. So as I've said, if you decide now to introduce yourself to a certain lifestyle, the question that I pose to you is, what is your plan of sustainability? Just that we cannot have a dialogue here. It will be good also for me to hear your answers, but we can catch up with this later. As you introduce yourself to this kind of lifestyle that you've introduced yourself to, do you have a plan in terms of sustainability? You have to answer that. And I would also love to do a session, some, because I time, the issues of time, I will see how I manage. But I would also love to do a session about the midlife crisis when it comes to relationships, especially for people who have already made it in terms of their finances, their careers. Most of the time we discover that these kind of individuals, when it comes to relationships, they're struggling, not relationship with man, but romantic relationships. So there are also stuff which I want to pose there, ask questions and build a session around the midlife crisis of relationships, and you seeing yourself in that space where you're succeeding in your career, succeeding financially, but this one pole is still shaking. So that is something which I will take after I finish this series that I'm doing now. So the second thing is your emotional relationship with man. So to understand it more in terms of your emotional relationship with man, I'm also going to further it and introduce you to something it's called beliefs around man. All of us, we possess certain beliefs around man, and those beliefs were not just lingering on the air. We have received these beliefs from our backgrounds and how man was treated around where we grew up. So those things they shape our beliefs regarding man. So you need to pause and check your emotional relationship with man. How do you react around man? Do you feel grumpy, angry, scared? We have to answer those questions. So
No sound. We can't hear.
Okay. Apologies, guys. I don't know what happened to the it was off. So sorry about that. What is now back? I'm sure you are able to hear me. So I didn't notice that the network it was off. So let me bring the notes again on the screen. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So I was reflecting in terms of the issue of financial commitments that you have to reflect, like, what is your plan, especially for those of you who are having people that are taking care of outside your own responsibilities. What is your plan to deal with these things after 5 years? What is your plan to deal with these things even when you go to retirement? Because you must have a proper plan. I don't know, maybe you will suggest, if you're taking care of, sometimes you may have siblings who are not working. Then later on, one and discover that one now is having a child, you still have now to deal with that additional. So what is your plan? If maybe you have that mindset of say, I'll continue to give them money, the question will be, is it sustainable? If it's sustainable, it's okay. But you also have to consider some options to tackle this if you have extra commitments, because our commitments are not the same. So if you have extra commitments, what is your plan to tackle these issues? And in your personal scale, you also have to check your responsibilities. And in terms of changes, how you're going to deal with those things. There was someone who was asking this question and saying, what if we happen to hit something that is similar to COVID-19 again? Then if we hit something similar to COVID-19 again, do you have any plan to tackle your financial commitments? So that's where I also pause and think and say, if we can hit something like COVID-19 that stops almost every movement, what will be my plan in terms of tackling these things? So I need to pause and reflect. And as I was saying before the network cut me off, I was having a conversation with my mom today regarding my young sister, and I was telling her that, if this person now is capable to earn something, it's no longer a duty to take care of something that she's able to take care of. Because if you continue to do like that, this person won't be responsible. This person will always get relaxed. So these are some of the things that sometimes you don't pay much attention to say, but I'm working, I'm earning something, I'm not taking care of anyone, still I can take care of this. But you pay attention to those things and look at the after effects of those things. And you also pause and make a reflection in terms of the source of your stress. What is it that exactly is the source of your stress? Because sometimes we have this thing of saying, I'm stressed and I'm stressed, but can you trace and really trace it exactly? What is it that is the source of your stress? And as I've said, such things, they are good. This activity I'm giving you is good when you have a dialogue, when you have someone that you can engage with and exchange with, to say, okay, these are my stuff. But the person with it trusted, a person that that we can work together and we help each other. Okay, what is exactly the source of my stress? I mean to say, because sometimes what consume most of our energy is those projects that we are dealing with, is those savings that we are targeting to reach, as those investment that we are still battling whether they will make it or not, all those steps. But most of the time we discover that those things, they drain the energy of today, and they leave us sometimes helpless. It's okay to have goals, but those goals will not occupy that room where it's all about you and your peace. Set higher goals, set goals which challenge you, but you should not allow anything to occupy that space where it consumes your peace. And then sometimes you are sitting down there and asking yourself and whether you will make it or not. You have to understand this, that dealing with life is not about just what you have imagined. There will be some realities which are always popping up. And then when they pop up, you need to have a strategy in terms of dealing with them, because even if you can be anxious, like you are more anxious, like you are the best champion of being anxious, none of those things will definitely change your situation. So when you trace the source of your stress, you don't trace it for the sake of knowing it alone. You also trace it to know what is it that you need to do to deal with. So just also to pause, but this is for next week's notes, but I'm going to take something from next week's notes. One of the things that you also need to deal with, you need to trace what triggers you to be anxious. You need to trace your triggers. What triggers you to be anxious and what triggers you to spend and blend. Please be a person who pays much attention to this. Please trace things which triggers you to be anxious or start to worry, and also trace triggers that triggers you to spend and blend. Because sometimes you do have your plan written down and you wanna follow through that plan, or sometimes you do have this plan of saying, every month I want to make sure that I contribute at least extra 500 towards my debt. But I discovered that instead of adding extra 500, you even add negative 500. I mean, subtract negative 500 in terms of adding extra 500. So know your triggers. Maybe you are that person that you are still struggling when you go to the malls. Whenever you see a sale, those things, it triggers you to buy. Or maybe you're that kind of a person that you can be so strong in your convictions to say, I want to stick to my budget. But once your friends start to show up, you don't have that no in you. Just want to swap because everyone is here. And sometimes in our cycle, there is this attitude where people, they know that this guy have money, so we can do whatever we want. We know he's going to take care of the bill. And you are scared to say, guys, I don't have money, because if I say I don't have money, they say, how come? Because you are loaded. But sometimes I was reading somewhere, this guy was saying about money, said, the level at which I'm at currently, I have reached it because I had to disappoint many people. So sometimes you sacrifice other people, you sacrifice your own joy to feed other people. But when you go to bed, you are the only one who's having sleepless night, thinking about how did I spend that money? Why did I spend that money? Maybe those are triggers. You need to know your triggers, because all of us, we have triggers that triggers us to spend. And most of the time, we are triggered to spend and blend. So you need to figure out those triggers, and you need to find a way in terms of dealing with those triggers. Um, I'm sure some of you have noticed that there are times where you can text me the whole day. And when you text me the whole, you discover that I don't respond to your text. It's not like necessarily I'm ignoring you. But I ignore that thing of going to my WhatsApp because there will be so and so texting me. And once I get to that so and so texting me, I become so anxious that I lose the whole concentration. And I said, I'd rather be away from the phone and concentrate in what I want to concentrate to, because that thing can cause me to be triggered. So mm, I don't want, like, also in my communication level, I have this thing. I'm not a person who loves to get those texts. Can we talk? Or we need to, I'm not that kind of a person, because I deal with a lot of stuffs. I deal with a lot of, but problems are not the same every day, especially when you deal with business problems. You have different businesses that you have to deal with. And now if this person now is texting you, can we talk? I'm not that kind of person. Like, for me, you just have to hit straight to whatever you want to talk about. Also, the timing is key. I'm not good in talking about, like like stuff that requires a lot of attention during the day, because my attention most of the time during the day is towards afro to some other stuff that I'm dealing with. So yeah, late on a day can get me, but now you just wake up, you hit me with a bomb. I'm not that kind of a person. So I know I'm not saying I'm 100% aware of myself, but at least I'm getting there. I'm learning myself. Okay, these are the things that can trigger me. These are the places that I need to avoid when I'm like this. So you need also to trace your triggers. What triggers you to make some decisions which you didn't plan to do, especially financial decisions. Sometimes you are sitting down there, you told yourself that, no, I'm budgeting towards this. You're sitting at your home, and then there is this situation that makes you feel, it's like you feel like, oh, this situation is very dire. And that time, you know that you make that decision, you're going to sacrifice something that's going to cost you. It's good to have sympathy, but sympathy without boundaries can mislead you. And people can also use the same thing that you called is your strength and then use it against you. So you need to guard against such things. So you need to check this thing, the source of your stress, and also the hope for the future. Hope for the future, the drives. So you need, so on this one of pause and take a stock, these are the questions that you also need to ask yourself, additional questions which are posed beside the ones which I was talking about. Now, these are the questions that I want you also to write down and put them on the frame. Okay. Number one, write down at least 3 things in your current life that give you energy. Remember, I also spoke about the issue of checking the source of your strength, of your stress. I don't know where the strength is coming from, the source of your stress. So you need to write down 3 things in your current life that give you energy. At least 3 things. I don't know. You can write the question and think of them later. You don't need to write the answers now. Just write the questions and you can focus on answering those questions later. What are the 3 things that gives you energy currently where you are? Because the thing is this, John C. Maxwell said, if you have a person, whether it's at a place or in a given point of space that you don't like, he said it is impossible for you to dislike everything about the person. He said if you like 15% of that person and hate 85% of him, he said don't focus on the 85% that you hate about him. Focus on the 15% and give it 85% energy, and it will give you 100%. So also, when you check on the things that like most of the time that are the source of your stress, you don't pay much attention to them as you want to give your best energy to it. You just have to be conscious of it, but pay much attention to things that gives you energy. So what are the 3 things in your current life that give you energy? In your current life as you speak now, what is it that gives you energy? So you need to write those things down. And then number 2, write down things that drain your energy, because it's both negative and positive. So you also need to write 3 things that drain your energy. Maybe I'm the one who's draining your energy. Write my name there and say, this one drains my energy. Then you need to find a way in dealing with me. So it means if I drain your energy, then don't pay much attention to me. Don't give me your attention. Don't give me your best time. Don't give me your best energy. Because at the end of the day, it's not about just surviving. You also want to live your best life. So what is it that drains your energy? What is it that gives you energy? And then the third thing is list the financial responsibilities that currently feel heavy or unclear. List financial responsibilities that currently feel heavy or unclear. So on this one of number 3, I'll also suggest that for this thing, guys, get a person that you can talk to. Yes, I will also come and engage with you regarding this, but on your own space, get a person that you can engage with regarding this. A person that you can feel comfortable to talk about. Maybe you have some debts that you're dealing with, that they feel more heavy on your shoulders, or maybe have some family commitments that feel heavy on your shoulders. Just write all those things down. Just write them down, and then we are going to take it further. That's why the issue of time, but I'll make sure that I press. But I doubt I will cover all the subjects that I want to cover this year, because there are more, like I want to also fit more on the psychological space this year. I want to invest more on this. So the fourth thing is identify one area where your money is supporting your well-being and one area where it is creating pressure. You see the balance here. I don't know if this question appears the way I see it. Identify one area where your money is supporting your well-being. Because obvious, guys, money should take care of our well-being. Identify one area where your money is supporting your well-being, and also one area where it's creating pressure. Because sometimes we do those things and say we're taking care of our well-being, but you discover that no, this is the result of pressure. So one area where it's taking care of your well-being, and one area where it's creating pressure. Let's check those areas. Remember, this is our first stop, is pause and take stock. So this is a pause. This is our pausing station. Before everything, this is our pausing station. We pause and make some reflection. So that's the last questions. I hope you've covered them all. The first is write down 3 things in your current life that give you energy. Number 2, write down 3 things that drain your energy, because even money itself is energy. Then number 3, list the financial responsibilities that currently feel heavy in your like in heavy and they are unclear. So number 4 is identify one area where your money is supporting your well-being, and one area where your money, where it is creating pressure. Because obvious, guys, it's good to have goals, it's good to plan stuffs, but you also need to take care of yourself. You need also to take care of your well-being. It can't be like you just sacrifice everything and say, I'm busy. You also need to take care of your well-being. So let's check the second thing that you have to check in your checklist. And okay. Number 2 is, the question is that you need to ask yourself, are your habits serving your true self? The kind of habits which you have possessed now, are your habits serving your true self? We didn't say are your habits serving yourself, but your true self. Because sometimes there are a lot of things that put us in that corner where we are not saving our true self, but we are saving the image that we want people to see about ourselves, but that's not what we are or who we are, but it's the image which we have created and want the public to view us in that image. So here I'm going to dwell more. I'm going to talk about it next week on how to create right habits, and also how to be consistent in right habits, because sometimes we do start things, but most of the time we start but we don't finish. We read a book, we don't finish. We start a saving goal, we don't finish. We start to set goals in terms of I'm going to contribute monthly in terms of my investment. You only do that 2 weeks, then the next thing you're no longer doing it. You want to contribute extra in your bond, you do it for two months, and then the 3rd month you're no longer doing it. You want to cut off credit card, but you are not consistent in that habit. But now the question is all about, are your habits serving your true self, or your habits are serving the image that you want to cater to the public? That's the question. So okay, just a minute. I want to tell these guys that I'm in a meeting. Just a minute. Yeah, so I'm back. So like, as I've said from the beginning, this thing takes a high level of like being honest with ourselves. So money habits can be about how you think and feel about money. So it can also be what you do with your money, and your money habits have been shaped by your history. So, this author said something about habits. He said, you don't decide your future, you decide your habits, and your habits are going to decide your future. So, this thing is always on the checklist of our habits. So, are my habits serving the true self, or my habits is a result of the image that I want to portray to people? So the questions which I need to pose and ask myself in this activity is, number one, write a list of habits you have around money, finance, and wealth. So write a list of habits that you currently have possessed around money, finance, and wealth. So money, we're talking as money as a subject. When it comes to finance, we talk about all the areas where debt is in, as investing, we're talking about that. And also the kind of habits you have possessed around wealth. So what kind of habits? You need to write lists of habits around money, habits around finance, and habits around wealth. So you need to write down those habits in your own time. And the second thing is, once you have a full list of those habits, look at each behavior or habit which you have written down and ask yourself, is this a good habit? Is it a bad habit, or is it a neutral habit? It's up to you to decide. But the thing is this, don't justify things that you have to deal with. If you have to take account, if you have to take responsibility and being accountable for that action, take responsibility and be accountable. Don't blame the nearest object, because you can't change something that you justify. The only way for you to change is to accept that this is me and I have to deal with this thing. So write a full list of all those habits that you have around money, you have around finance, you have around wealth. And then from each and every habit which you have written down, you yourself, you have to rate it, whether this one is a good habit, whether this one is a bad habit, whether this one is just a neutral habit. Remember, we're trying to trace every action that we have around money, so that we'll be able to have good relationship with money. And then even when you go to the issue of strategies to deal with debt, we're no longer just going to bring strategies, but you are able to trace all these decisions. Where are they coming from? Because if you bring strategies without without tracing the causal factor itself, we're not dealing with the problem. It's like sweeping off water that is leaking from the roof. If you cannot deal with the roof, then you cannot stop the water dripping down. So you write the list of all the habits that you have around money, you have around finance, you have around wealth. The next thing that you do, you just rate every habit that you possess. Whether I never said negative, I said all habits that you have around money, that you have around finance and wealth. Then after that, you have to tick whether this is a good habit, whether it's a bad habit or a neutral habit. You tick that. And then you're going to scale it whether around money you have a lot of good habits, or you have a lot of bad habits, or you have just neutral habits. And then, as I said, next thing now, I'll complement this by bringing the subject of how to build right habits, how to sustain them, and everything. So then the last thing that you do is make a note next to each habit. So I can't you are good in me, like make a note. Let's say I have this bad habit, then I make it. Okay, let me just put on the screen how I want you guys to go around it. It's something like this. So this is the habit. So just an example, setting up automatic saving transfer, and then okay, it's good, and then these are the notes. Ensures money goes to the saving first. So the reflection is up to you, like when I get it, but you just make a reflection in terms of the notes and say, okay, this is what I write about this thing. This is what I write about this. So you the habit, you score it in terms of good, bad, or neutral. And then the last thing that you do, you write notes at the end of it. What do you make out of it? So you have to write those things so that when you do the reflections, it will help you a lot. So, and then let's check the third checklist that we need to check in our scale. The third one is understand your money story. So a money story is the set of beliefs, memories, emotions, and habits a person carries about money. So all of us, we possess certain beliefs, we possess certain memories, we possess certain emotions and habits around money. Just a simple question to ask. if you can go deeper in your closet and search for what was the first good memory that you have around money, first that you can pause and think around money. Because all of us, we have those memories around money. And what kind of beliefs do you have? And these beliefs, you have possessed them somewhere. You don't just have them today, you possess them somewhere. So this belief, some of them, they come from childhood, they come family conversations, some they've come from cultural expectations. I was invited to speak somewhere last month. Yeah, I was invited to speak at this. It was a district staff, and I was speaking there, and I was listening to people, and that's why I've also made some reflections to understand that we possess different beliefs when it comes to money. So when you possess different beliefs when it comes to money, that's what I've said. We also have to deal with the subject of beliefs when it comes to money, especially as Black people, because most of the time as Black people, what you possess in terms of beliefs regarding money, we have possessed the wrong beliefs around money. So these beliefs that you possess, as we possess it from childhood, we possess it from family conversations, we possess them from cultural expectations. The expectations that are set around our own culture. So just for an example, people they expect you that by a certain age you must be having your own house, driving. But these are just the minor steps in to driving. But the major thing people that will ask you is, when are you getting married? Okay, when are you going to have a child? Because they set some expectations, but there's a certain age you need to have a child. But I want to submit to this: never ever subject yourself to anyone expectations. If you want to do it your own way, do it your own way, as long as it serves your purpose and it brings you peace. You are not living to please everyone. Because I've seen many young people sacrificing their own peace because they want to please their families and they want to please their own society. And I don't want to lie, guys. We must teach, even if it's not our children, that there is no glory in bringing a child that you don't have a capacity to take care of, not only financial, but you need to be present in different aspects of a child. There is more than just having a cash flowing. Sometimes these young men, they will have kids and then they'll send money. So I'm taking care of my child, but it takes more than that. It takes more than that. So there are cultural expectations, and sometimes we succumb to those cultural expectations, and they are set there. But the question will always be, these cultural expectations that they have set, do they elevate us or they always draw us to be in this certain level? I'm sure you also pay attention to just a simple thing, which is a cultural expectations, that when you go to your townships, to your villages, when there is a funeral, there are high expectations. People will start to look at the kind of a coffin that you guys are using, and they'll look at it, and they'll judge you based on that. And so and so's funeral, man, the coffin. I'm not saying we need to do like this, but I've saw something last week. I think it's last week. Leo Messi lost his father. The father died today, was buried tomorrow, and it was just few people and friends. And I think of the guy. The guy is a billionaire, and said, if this guy was staying on our side, being a billionaire, the funeral, bro, even the coffin will just land on the space with a chopper. But those guys, they also possess a certain belief around those stuffs. So sometimes we succumb to cultural expectations, and those cultural expectations, they lead to many Black people. Some of them, they lead many Black people to stay in poverty. I don't lie to you, all Black people are prepared to die, but few are prepared to live. Like when it comes to preparation for death, Black people are prepared, but few are prepared to live. And that's the problem which we are having. People can gather together and say we are a society to bury one another, but there is no society to lift one another up. That's what we have in our society, that people, they have different societies. They say, this is our society. Then when you die, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for you. But no plan to deal with the current life, because we're not living to, we are definitely going to die, but not tomorrow. We might live to 70, might live to 80. But just imagine every day we need to talk about death. We don't have any plan regarding life itself. That's the problem with us. So there are some cultural expectations which now have driven our mindset. And when you live inside spaces, that's why you start to discover that sometimes it's good to move out of the ghetto and to move out of the township as soon as possible, because the mindset that is there always limits you. And I was listening to this guy. He was saying to me, hey, you guys, once you start to progress, you start to talk bad about the hood. I say, bro, I'm not talking bad about the hood, because I still have a lot of investments in the hood. But I'm talking about the kind of mindset which dominate the hood. I don't have a problem with the hood, but I have a problem with the mindset which dominates the hood. Because if you stay there for too much and then you don't work out your mindset, then that mindset is going to limit you a lot. So there are some cultural expectations that, like, they limit us as black people. So also an individual, there are some that's like, what is your money story? To simplify, what is your money story? So some of these, again, they come from our past successes, and sometimes they come from our past mistakes. There are people who have lost money, or like, when it comes to business, when it comes to business, I don't want to lie to you. Business is not romantic. There will be days where you're going to lose 1 million. You have to come back to sleep in your own bed with that million lost, not coming back. And you sometimes lose your first 100,000. You feel like the world is over. There are people who are losing millions. And sometimes it's better because you don't account to anyone. There are people who have lost millions. They have to face the board there. So we are sometimes traumatized by those past mistakes, and now we don't have the courage to stand up and say we're going to do it again. But in this is not win, 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 win. Is this, I think it's Churchill who said, um, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. That's how it defines success. It's failure to failure. But you don't lose the energy, you don't lose the focus. You keep your eye on the goal. So sometimes our money story are held by our past mistakes. And one of the difficult things is to start over. Maybe sometimes you're recovering from divorce, sometimes you're recovering from retrenchment, sometimes you're recovering from making a lot of mistakes with your credit cards and other credits, and now you are traumatized. So sometimes we are and sometimes these things are the result of the difficult financial experiences that we have. So some people believe money is a scarce and must be protected at all costs. These people are the people who will never even please themselves, because they are coming from a traumatized background. So others believe money must be spent to show love and success. So this is a kind of this is another generation, this is another type of people that they have to deal with, where they have to prove that they have it. And one person once said, if you have it, then why have to prove that you have it? And say, if I can have this, when I arrive, they will feel me. You are not doing it for people to feel you. You are doing it for yourself. The person who matters most in this picture is yourself. So whenever you draw a decision, remove us from the picture and put yourself there. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? This is what you want. If it's okay, it's okay. You choose that thing. I remember I once, if I'm not mistaken, I once shared the story with you guys that there was a young man around during COVID. He had 600 million in his account. And then he came and said, he wanted a meeting for financial advice with 600 million. Guess what he was driving? He was driving a Corolla. And guess the place he chose for the meeting to take place? KFC. And I was like, if you were 600 million, you choose KFC driving a Corolla. If it was another person with 2 million, you will go for other stuffs. But you yourself, you've decided to be content with yourself, and then you choose KFC, you choose to drive Corolla, and then no need for you to prove you have it. It's your 600 million, you have it, and it's with you. So we need to check our money story. we need to check our money story. Because as we look at those individuals who believe that, okay, there's a message popping in, okay. A mere 500,000 people go out. Yeah, sometimes 500,000 crazy. So these guys with 600 million was still settled. No one knows about it up until tells you that I have this 600 million. So some avoid money conversations. So if you're in a relationship, if you're in a romantic relationship, I want to ask these questions. How many times do you have money conversations in your relationship? And what kind of money conversations are you guys having? Because most of the time, what I've realized in romantic relationships, people, they can talk about how many babies they want, they can talk about, but they don't want to talk about money. Once you start the subject of money, then they will find an alternative to escape that conversation. So if you want to draw a healthy relationship, it must also have money conversations, sometimes difficult money conversations. So some relationship is an autopilot. I will only know when we're out of money that no, my wife is out of money, and I can, hey, I'm broke. Can you give me 200? That's why I know that, okay, now out of money. But the question is, how many times do you have money conversations in your relationships? Because some people, they avoid, and it's not about avoiding the money conversation. It's because they feel ashamed. Maybe they are still down. Maybe you are earning 15 times more than them, or maybe they feel like they don't qualify to have money conversations with you because of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 decisions. And some they feel overwhelmed, some they feel afraid. I remember I was asking this young girl and said, you know what, every month you have to take out your own bank statement, start to read it. She said, I can't do that because it's so scary. I said, but that's the only way where you can figure out where your money is going. So you need to have money conversations. How often do you have money conversation in a relationship? How often do you have money conversation as a family? If you're married, or because guys, romance is good, but there are some places you don't need romance, you need reality. So on the table, you just shift everything and say, let's sweep off the romance and let's bring on the reality. Let's talk about money. You start the conversation, and you have real and serious money conversations. And you know, whatever you decide to ignore, it will catch up with you later. And sometimes when we're in too much romance, we don't want to talk. Also, we only want to talk about what is your favorite color, what is your favorite meal, your favorite car. Yeah. But you also need to have honest conversations. As a family, have honest conversations around money. Money conversations in families should not be something like a taboo. Let it be like something ordinary. You have money conversations. You sit down, you talk about money, talk about all circumstances regarding money. The family have those honest conversations because your family also needs that. They need to understand that money conversations are not when you start to work, and money conversations are not just for older people. We can have money conversations as a family. So, understanding the money story matters because hidden beliefs often shape visible behavior. You see where it goes. Hidden beliefs often shape visible behavior. We may not know the beliefs, but the actions will definitely reflect the beliefs. So the beliefs are seen on the actions. So these are the things that you need to reflect on. So let's check on the question that you need to ask regarding your money story. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, what did you learn about money while growing up? I don't know if some of us, we can go back, but I think our memory serves us better. We can go back and make those reflections. What did you learn about money while growing up? You need to write those things down, the things which you have learned about money growing up. Then the second question is, was money spoken about openly and faithful, proudly, or not at all? Where you're coming from. Was money a subject which was spoken openly, or at all there was no subject of money? Number three, Which sentence best describe your current money belief? Which sentence that? Maybe the sentence is, there is never enough. I must always be in control. Money gives me freedom. Money is complicated. Which one in these that is to describe your current money belief? The one that says there is never enough, or the one that says I must always be in control, or the one says money gives me freedom, or the one says that money is complicated? Which one that best describes you? And the fourth thing is, which belief is helping you and which belief is limiting you? So regarding this question, this is what I mean, regarding this checklist of your money story, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. The questions that you need to ask yourself. What did you learn about money while growing up? Was money spoken about openly, or it was something that it was spoken under the table? And then in terms of these statements, which one describe your current money belief? And then the last question will be, which belief is helping you and which belief is limiting you? So yeah, because of time, we're already on 8:05, and my rule says I don't skip an hour teaching people. I know people want to rest and their focus is always limited. So I don't know if there is anyone with the question before I pause. We're going to resume next week. I'm not done. There are things that I still need to cover. So we'll continue next week. Is there anyone with a question? We're attending therapy today. It was a therapy session. I don't know if I don't know whether there's anyone with a question or you guys were traumatized. You just want to sleep. Okay, it seems like you are traumatized. But other than that, thank you very much for taking your time to be part of this. Okay, Tandy say thank you. Tough love today you gave us. Yeah, I was not pampering you today, but it's okay. We're learning. So thank you very much. We'll resume this next week, but I'm asking you guys, just get a person that you can engage, because this one is a dialogue. You can get one here or you can get a person that you trust on the side, but get a person that you can engage with that helps you with this. So thank you very much. Let's have a fruitful week. Let's meet next week again.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Bye.
that's tough.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.